tech bro fueled dystopia future rather than one that's shaped by all of us for all of us. I do appreciate this is a little bit ironic coming from me as a man in tech, but hopefully I'm not going to be doing too much talking during this panel, and I'll just largely be steering things. And so with that, let's introduce this great panel. One thing I will say before we do that is Ioana's having some slight technical issues at the moment. So if Ioana doesn't join us, Ioana's back, great. So but just bear with us while Ioana sorts out her connectivity. But Shika, perhaps if we could kick off with you, could you give everyone a short background on your role? You're on mute, by the way.
Right. Hi, everyone. Shikha Merchant. I am a principal architect in Royal London Group. I'm basically heading the digital architecture for the group, where my responsibility is everything digital, including AI. So yes, it's an exciting time for us. AI is evolving, and the pace of change has completely changed the dynamics of how we thought about digital evolution now. And yeah, we are facing a number of challenges, but at the same time, it is about how do we keep up the pace. So really interested in this topic, and thank you, Oliver, and everyone else for having me here. Thank you.
Welcome. And perhaps Roua, you can go next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roua Touihri. I'm an enterprise architect and technology strategist with over 11 years of experience working across sectors such as logistics, finance, and cloud infrastructure. I've led large-scale architecture initiatives at organizations like Bolloré Logistics, Crédit Agricole, Europe Assistance, with a strong focus aligning IT systems with business strategy and digital transformation. I also have a computer science, specializing in cloud computing and data center networks, and I've served as a university lecturer and a mentor to young engineers. So my work blends enterprise architecture with emerging technologies like AI, FinOps, and DevOps, always with a strong commitment to human-centric, inclusive, and sustainable innovation. I'm honored to join this panel today with you to explore how diversity, ethics, and empathy can shape the future of enterprise architecture in an AI-driven world. Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks, Roua. And Ioana, hopefully we can now hear you and you can hear us. But yeah, if you could give an introduction, that'd be fantastic.
Let's try. And indeed, if my connectivity, let's say, comes in the way, let me know, and then let's not make it annoying for the audience. They are here to have a great time. Well, my name is Ioana Bour. I'm originally from Romania. I work in the Netherlands at ABN AMRO. ABN AMRO is one of the main three Dutch banks. I joined the bank 6 years ago as an enterprise architect myself. But I think 2 or 2.5 years ago, I switched roles, and I'm managing now a pool of enterprise architects. And they are...
sorry.
Sorry?
I was going to say, sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, it's good. Perfect. So within the bank, we have 6 architecture areas. 3 are more business, customer, products, risk and finance. 3 are more technology, and that is data, security, software and platform. And my background prior to being an architect, what was life there before, hard to remember, but I was a consultant, both management consultant and technical consultant. So I was myself a solution engineer, and my background is then in computer science and mathematics. I think it's very valuable to have this discussion now because AI has proven is not a fad. It's something that will really revolutionize our lives and obviously of our disciplines as well. So let's dive into it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And so look, whilst AI is super exciting, and I know lots of people are saying lots of amazing things about it, I guess where I'm going to take us is possibly a little bit of pouring some water on some of this, right? And I don't do that to sort of dampen enthusiasm, but I think it's interesting to sort of think about where things are headed. And so I can put it in the chat later for those that are interested in exploring this in more depth, but I've done a fair amount of thinking about some of the AI challenges that I don't think people are thinking about. And so one of the ones that I think is real right now, in fact I'm even facing it myself, is impersonation, right? The AI AI's ability now to very easily deepfake. Like it won't be long until one of us doesn't actually have to join this panel in person. And in fact, we were making this joke before where we hit the broadcast button that that deepfake is going to perhaps better impersonate. And so that's kind of raising all kinds of sort of cultural sort of challenges. Also, cultural challenges around what's acceptable. When can we allow automation to take our place? When should it stay a human interaction? This sort of human versus tech. What's culturally acceptable, and what's acceptable from a regulatory standpoint. We hear a lot about augmentation, but I fear that could lead to something like augmentation fatigue, where perhaps if our jobs are a little bit too just reviewing the output of AI, how interesting is that job going to be? And going forwards, will that present sort of challenges? And many people have spoken about the degradation of human skills, right? If we're outsourcing a lot of our thinking and our analysis tasks to AI, is that potentially going to degrade our own faculties and our own abilities to do things? These things can also be quite addictive, and I think push a digital divide even further than the one we have already, right? Where we have people with access to technology, people without access to technology. I think the third category we'll have fairly soon is people without access or knowledge of how to use AI as a third sort of digital divide. And that's going to lead to all kinds of asymmetries, right? Organizations that have adopted AI, that are using it at scale, perhaps facing off into customers that aren't, or suppliers that aren't, or the other way around. And so this arms race is really, really interesting, like how we manage this and sort of kind of navigate this with sort of thought. And so, that's kind of, I wanted to pause there. I've got a few more sort of things to throw into you later, but I wanted to get your take. So Shika, have you got a particular sort of take on this? Are any of these sort of particular challenges that you're concerned about how you're sort of architecting and working on projects?
Yes, I think all of them are true, and I think the biggest challenge as an architect with the pace of change that brings today is we don't have one AI, we have multiple AIs, and we have to navigate these challenges not just across one but multiple. And with businesses which are medium to big size, that quadruplates basically, because you have, I think there is a risk that we are facing because, like I always say, we have overcome silos now. We have started building more integrated architectures where we understand the domains, we understand the technology better. But with the AI, are we going back to those silos? Are we actually, because each business and each outcome is so focused on specific set of outcomes they want to achieve, and yes, there is AI everywhere, we are going back to those silos. I think the key really, and as enterprise architects, as somebody who understands the big picture across the enterprise, I think it is more now than ever that we bring in that value of connecting those dots together and ensuring that we build the right framework in place, the right I think the key is not to panic, really. The key is to prepare for it and say, we have the right guardrails in place about how we overcome these technological challenges. I think it's inevitable. We are already into it. I don't think it's going to come. We are already in it now. But at the same time, we have to quickly develop to understand how we put those guardrails in place.
I love that point about the kind of governance and guardrails. What's your sort of take on this, Ioana? Is that something you're sort of thinking about? Does governance need to be more than just sort of technology? I mean, that's always been the case, right? But perhaps even more so now.
Yeah. I'll dive into that question, but before, maybe just my take on your comment from before and your introduction. I would say two things there. One is that what we see now, we cannot imagine what the end would be. I was in a training once, and someone said that when mobile phone was introduced, people would also say, "What, mobile phone? I don't need that to be all the way on the phone the whole day. I cannot imagine that." Do we really use the mobile phone as a phone today, right? So we cannot yet imagine how we will use AI. On that background, the second thing I want to add is, in any role, enterprise architect as well, we have to think what is the human part of it, what makes us good enterprise architects. If AI is there, right? So digital twin, a deep fake, there is an edge there, right? Where you need the proper governance in place as well. But if that is there, in the past within the team, we used to say this: as an architect, you create, you control, and you communicate. And I see that more and more AI can do the first two, right? Creation, brainstorming, ideas, divergent thinking is there. Control, you can also automate a lot of it. But communicate and continuously communicate the same message to make sure that people stay on the vision and that they reach the vision. I think that's very linked to the human skills of working. So I do think governance has to be in. We also have, and I think all the companies would by now have an ethics committee on approving the AI use cases. Um, let's say we are thinking of digital twins for our agents, but also we should think of that also from our roles. So what is a digital twin of an enterprise architect? I can imagine one such guardrail would be that you do not use your photo and your picture to create a sort of a deepfake video, but use a cartoon. So it's clear for everybody that that's not you talking. But yeah, that will give rise definitely to all sort of uses. I think within the company, within the boundaries, an ethics committee has that role to play to make sure that we keep the trust of our clients, right? Because at least from the bank perspective, that's our main currency.
Yeah, no, you raised some fascinating points there. But Roua, what's your take on where we're headed?
Yeah, for my mind, I agree with both of Chira and Luana, because I think today we cannot live without the AI. It is with us, and we have to deal with that presence. I think AI can facilitate in such a way from the technical progress and because of calculation, of automation, and so on. But the presence of a human side is very important. I mean, architects need to really understand the people needs, need to be more empathetic, listening are the key. So these kind of stuff, AI cannot replace it. So to my mind, we have to find it as a complementary way to progress efficiently, and of course to take profit of it in a good side, which mean improving technology, but with a human presence in order to guide it, so close to the ethics and closer to clients, and getting being the good bridge between client strategy and
Just before I move on, Chica, sorry, I think when you're not speaking, you're going to need to mute because we're getting quite a lot of background noise from you. I'm really sorry. So yes, I may have to sort of remind you to switch back on, but apologies for that. Thank you. So Ioana, I wanted to pick up on something. One of the things that you said, which I thought was brilliant, which is we don't really know where a lot of this is going to lead, right? And your point about when we first got mobile phones and perhaps we thought we'd use them for calling, and then all the amazing things we now do with mobile phones is quite crazy. And I think this leads on to my next point, which is there is so much uncertainty, and it almost feels like we're looking down. You know, I kind of use this analogy of a cone, right? This cone of uncertainty. On the one end, we have all the amazing possible things we might do with AI, and that AI might at some point get to a stage where it's able to unlock amazing scientific discoveries and various other things that will be amazing for humanity. Sadly, though, everything has a flip side, doesn't it? And on the other side, you have the potential for AI to be used when it's not appropriate. Like the other end of the extreme is, and it's not a very nice phrase, but it's it's enshittification, right? It's this: if you force AI to do something that really requires a person, but perhaps the business is putting pressure on you to cut costs, so you go down the automation route in spite of its suitability, you potentially degrade the user experience and the customer experience. I guess no one really wants to do that consciously, but you might do that by accident. So I kind of wondered what your sort of take was on ensuring that we don't sort of lose our heads and just keep that humanity around the experience. What's your sort of take on that one?
So I think the dark side that you have mentioned to start with, that's not new either. So there are always, from the time of from the beginning of humanity, there are people who they are criminals, right? That are trying to impersonate or get access to information that they shouldn't have access to. And at the same time, there is a part of humanity who is fighting them, right? So you have the good guys and the bad guys always
Yep.
across. This is just a new technology, so you have to assume that they will use that, and you have to assume that your job is to be one step ahead of them, right? So that, I think, that doesn't change. That was there also when we had, for instance, banking via telephone. There were people who would impersonate the clients. Is not the idea is not new. The technology is new. And I think what if you focus a lot, so what you need to stay and to learn, one is to realize that the dark side is there, and to also mentally be able to put it away so that you can stay in a growth mindset. I think it goes back to the principle of psychology, where if you are afraid, you are blocked. You cannot evolve. You cannot think of possibilities if your life is threatened. Don't get into that step by making this dark side so big in the mind that you cannot see what is what is the bright side of it. So I think that it starts at that level. I think the more people will feel threatened with their jobs, the more they will be in sort of block stage. So that's something, as managers, as colleagues, as human beings, we have to also take care of ourselves and of the others. And I think to stay on the track, you need to have a learning mindset. So I think when we met first time, I said that when I remember when the smartphone was introduced, my father had one and he was annoyed with it, and I was the child, and I said, "But I will take it. I will give you my feature phone, and I will take that." And that made me more digital savvy than his generation. I think there is a risk that we are the parents now. So we still have to look at this new technology with the eyes of the child, because our children will definitely jump on this thread. I had interviews with candidates that were reciting ChatGPT answers. It's not the right way to use the technology. But I'm saying there are people who will jump on this roller coaster faster, and the faster they jump, the faster they learn. I think learning is really the key here.
That's a really, really good point. Okay, come on, Roua, go on.
Yeah, I would like to add something else in addition to learning. I would say also the good approach to build ethical AI is to start with values. We have to think early, before any conception, before what is right and what is wrong. And of course, making some test designs in order to study the risk and intended harm. So learning, but also being sure that we have set the good values before.
I really like that point, Roua. It's. I think we are in danger of getting caught up in a little bit of giddy excitement, and I do also take your point, Ioana, about not letting fear control and be paralysing. But Shika, I know you also had some comments on this when we were emailing back and forth before this about the sort of significant disruption and potential UX degradation. So I want to allow you to unmute and add your perspective on this one.
Yeah, I think uh, I think all the points that were made were really important, and I think uh, being a parent and seeing my children already starting to use ChatGPT to get some answers that they might not get from me or from the books. And now no longer they go on to Internet Explorer. My 13-year-old doesn't go on to Internet Explorer. The first thing he does is, should I ask ChatGPT and see what it says, and then I can go and do my research. We are in difficult times, and yes, I mean, in terms of UX degradation, I think, and because the way the technology has evolved, and within banking or within financial services, one of the use cases we have seen this technology being promoted or used quite a lot is within the chat and chatbot space, right? uh, and you can see the customer struggle. The customer is trying to ask a question, the chatbot is trying to look at what is the best possible automated way to do this, but the customer at that time is really probably going through a struggle which the chatbot doesn't understand. And that's where humans differentiate. The vulnerability of the customer at the time they are trying to contact you, and if you don't understand that vulnerability, and if you don't redirect to the right person that needs to work or to the right technology, then it just lands up into frustration. So UX degradation is what we face into now. But I think what we need to do is I think the most important thing for organizations is to move away from thinking about, reducing how we measure ourselves. I think till now we have been measuring ourselves as NPSs or through, the time we reduce to deliver to be able to complete a transaction. But now it is more about thinking of customers' lifetime value. What is the lifetime value that we generate with the customer, and keeping that at the heart of every solution that you build, because if your customer leaves you, then the solution that you have built is not the right solution for them. So I think keeping that at the heart of everything that we do is, I think, the most important thing for me.
You've touched on a really interesting point there around, you can try and automate some of these things, but ultimately all they do is mimic human emotion, right? They don't really understand human emotion, and therefore it's probably a really hard problem to solve. And back in 2017, I was doing some things working with a data science team that were looking at human, stress levels and things in audio calls and stuff. And it's really hard. I think it's going to be a really difficult problem, I think, for us to almost kick the process back to a human being, right? When it's like, to your point just then, it's like a really sensitive situation. Someone's really upset. Actually, they don't want to speak to a robot. They want to speak to a human being that understands the nuance of the emotions that they're going through and is treated sensitively. But if we're not careful, our processes won't handle this. I mean, another quick example before we move on is how bad, in many cases, companies' processes are around bereavement. Like when a family member dies and you have to deal with that really awful situation, which sadly I had to in 2021, those sort of journeys just aren't handled very well. And I fear if we add further automation on top of processes that are somewhat broken, if we don't think about that, to your point, that human aspect, that's potentially quite dangerous. And the trouble is, not these most of the time, this isn't an issue, right? You contact your bank or you contact your utility company or whoever, and it's a normal situation. But it's those exceptional situations that I think we're slightly kind of forgetting about at times. And Ioana, I don't know if you've sort of given any thought to sort of how we manage this sort of when we get humans back into a scenario that we've automated.
Yeah. Well, I think there will be a more and more difference between what was automation 2 years ago and what automation will be in the future. I think it will be, let's say, the chat was, just using Gen AI as we know it today is much better than the chatbots that we had in the future, right? And even when you talk to GPT, it's very hard to be angry because the first thing that they reply is not, this is the answer to your question. It is, that is a good question. What a brilliant take on, right? So I think it already knows a bit to play with emotion, to make you happy. And that will just become better and better. At some point, I don't think, even when we call, we would know that we speak with a person or with an AI agent, right? So I think that's the future that we have to imagine, and to there will be a lot of use cases that will cover maybe 99% of all the calls, but there will be use cases where it will go wrong. And if it goes wrong, we need to have, as I said, some guardrails in place to notice the increase in emotion with the customer, to maybe move to a person, and then not to a person in first line, maybe a person in the third line who can really explain very specific cases. So not to the generic person, because that will also not help when the AI agent knows more than the person that comes on the phone. So I think we have to. I like what Shika mentioned. You have to keep monitoring to see that you are on the right track and you really give value to the customer, to the employees, to the society, to whoever you are bringing value to.
Yeah. And those are perhaps different things, different KPIs, different measurements than we've perhaps measured before, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Roua, do you have anything else to add on this one?
Honestly, she said everything, Ioana. I agree with her, because sometimes I'm a little bit afraid about the future. I mean, in which way we can really reach the communication? Is it because the problem of feeling that you are talking to a machine, and I'm pretty convinced that a machine cannot replace a human. So in which level we can start living with this kind of stuff, and how can we imagine our life later? I'm thinking about it, because today we are talking about diversity of teams, we are talking about inclusion of women in this field, and so on. And the technology is going far away from another side. So we have to deal with that also, and to make things working together in the same sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've nicely brought us along actually to the next point which I was going to make, which is, what does this mean for ourselves as architects, right? What does this mean for our interpersonal skills? And so, I think we touched on this earlier, but I suppose, Shika, I'll go to you. Do you think that this changes the balance of technical expertise, perhaps in a world where AI has a lot of the technical answers because it's got that depth of information it can tap into? Do you think the architect is more the human sort of consideration, decision-making sort of force? We're fascinated by your take on
that. Good, really good question. I think, and I would again start with, AI has meant that everybody has a technical answer, and that's the biggest fear that we have. The exec sponsor that is trying to do something can now look up on the AI and say, oh, I know how you can do it in technology, let's just go and build it. And that's where I think a role of architect comes in, kicks in, that looking at not just the current outcome that we are trying to deliver, but joining the dots across the organization and bringing the value to the not just the technology landscape of the organization, but at the same time bringing value to the customers. So now I think we have kind of changed the roles from being just technical advisors to being that strategic advisor that looks across not just the technology part of things, but we understands the business and is able to convince about what are the right decisions that you take. I think the role of architecture is more important. Yes, the insights can be automated. I think we are already seeing in the market, from enterprise architecture point of view, there are tools available which can predict what are the technology risks that are coming, but what they can't predict is that end-to-end
Hmm.
understanding of the business that you are, and the originality and the value that your business brings. That knowledge is not in the technology, and that's where you can really differentiate, adding your organizational knowledge to what the tools are bringing in the market.
Exactly. I think the architect should learn more skills like communication, ethics, leading change, the ability of telling story, the ability of bridging the whole team's conversion idea. Because, AI can help us in technological parts, so we can rely on the technological part from the AI, but the other skills should be the architects should be qualified by these skills, and only human can, of course, afford this kind of stuff.
I think that those type of skills are also what differentiates a good architect versus someone who still has to improve, huh? And that is irrespective of gender. But I do see a change as well, because when I joined the bank, we were 2 ladies in a team of 25 people, and now there are 10 ladies in a team of 25 people. So we are not 50%, but we are 40%, which is a win. And it is because as we grew also as a team, we became more strategic and more important to advise our senior management. And there, in advice, you need those type of skills: communication, influencing. It's not only about structuring and analytical skills, which anyway are the basis, but how do you bring it across to, you bring it across differently to different audiences, right? And that's a flexibility that an architect should have. And I think women may have it also. It's a product of the society as well. I think communication for women is something that is encouraged from early ages, compared to boys that are encouraged to maybe spend energy. I'm very big words, very stereotypical. I do see that a lot of, if I look at the promotions, a lot of our promotions happen also to the ladies architect, and it is really based on their skills and how influential they were towards their stakeholder. And I think here is again different from country to country. So in Netherlands, there is a funnel problem. There are not enough girls going into engineering schools, and then because you don't have enough in the engineering school, then you cannot have a lot of solution architects, system architects, also enterprise architects. Whereas in Romania, that's a bit different there. I think India may also be a bit different. So you have to see what type of problem you have. I think for Netherlands, there is funnel problem, and the hope is that AI can help there, right? So if you don't have to, if the information is very hard to grasp, AI can be a tutor, right? It can teach you in different ways, and maybe there are better ways to teach girls compared to boys. I don't know. Huh? Maybe we will get to that sort of result. And if girls in early stage of education can get the support they need, so that they don't feel stupid, they don't feel that they are not enough, and they also go more and more towards the hard topics, then we won't have a funnel problem. That's the hope.
Yeah, this is fascinating, and I'm glad we've sort of got into sort of some of the hardcore stuff, and we have to be careful here because we start throwing out stereotypes. But so I guess we just have to sort of a blame-free zone for a while while we explore some of this. But I think definitely the funnel problem is a challenge here in the UK as well. And I think for me, what's been interesting, sort of listening to you speak, is the roles that get you, I think, to an enterprise architect aren't necessarily the roles you really need to excel as an enterprise architect, right? Like your track record in technical solution architecture, which is, let's face it, is often the pathway for people to become an enterprise architect, right? I know it's not the only route, but in my experience, it has probably been about 50% or so of the people I see in EA have been a technical architect or technical developer engineer. But actually, those skills sometimes actually hold you back. So your point about a female perspective that perhaps is stereotypically a better communicator, someone who is a little bit more consultative. So it's fascinating, right, to look at that sort of dynamic.
I like, maybe just to interrupt, there is a saying, I don't remember if I read it or I heard it from someone, but the saying is, what got you here won't get you there. So regardless of the role, when you are in, you have to think, what makes me successful in this role? And it's true that what makes a system architect successful is not necessarily the same that will make an enterprise architect successful, and as long as you have the growth mindset, any skill you can develop. So it's not, that also means that in enterprise architecture, you can come from the consultancy background and learn the technology, or you can come from the technology background and learn, let's say, the consultancy skills. Both are possible, depending, there has to be a match. The person getting into the role also needs to want to do that, and to see it as an evolution of his personality. Yeah.
And your point about AI perhaps augmenting people so that they don't feel the imposter syndrome. They have this assistant, this co-pilot. I mean, Shika, what's your sort of take on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think I completely agree with what the points that she's made, because I have seen some brilliant examples of someone coming from ops, no technology background, but trying to learn technology and then becoming an architect in the end. I think it is how the organizations promote different diverse um, diverse people to diverse teams or peoples to join into architecture is important, because the overall I think we need to up the scale of diversity that we have in enterprise architecture. We have only 2 women in our team and very less diverse team, but I think it's I think the most important point is realizing the value of having diversity in your team, and then augmenting that with helping. You don't have to go outside and look for architects. You can build your own teams by promoting those skills, knowledge. And yes, AI can act as a um, as something that can train people into getting into different career paths.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you, because diversity is very important. The more the team is diverse, the more you reach more ideas, and of course, whenever you avoid missing ideas. And I think adding women at the table, it's not a matter of fairness. It's a matter of designing better, of to be in more resilient system for everyone, on reaching more ideas, reaching more designs, and increasingly involve the architecture, and of course reaching more values and more sophisticated, or let me say highly performant architecture. So I think diversity is it's a very important thing in order to enrich ideas, and of course have a completed ecosystem that can help everyone to feel himself included and of course impacted.
Yeah, I just wanted to use this opportunity for a moment. It's just like we've got quite a few people on in the audience, and so please, if you do have a question, please do add your question in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to it. So yeah, if you want to take that opportunity, please do so. We've got a few more minutes before we wrap up, but yeah, I wanted to give that option to anyone who's listening to kind of ping something through. Awesome. So I'd like to sort of move us towards like where we see the future of things going. How do you see, and we've touched on things like psychological safety and things like that. I mean, I guess what sort of possibilities do you think exists for making things better in the future? Are you hopeful? Are you optimistic? Yeah. Who wants to pick that one up first?
For me, I'm optimistic.
Yep.
But we have to be, as I've told you in the beginning, we have to set the values and to have to agree on the good values. It depends on our behavior. It depends on our usage. It depends on our objectives. But I think technology is progressing, so we have to take profit of it in a good way and improve our skills and to be more adaptive to the new future, including AI, so very performant things, and of course rely on communication and ethical things is very, very important. We have to include the most as possible people in the process because architects are today not only the translator of the business, but a bridge between the whole ecosystem and the whole environment. So we are, a bridge between people and business and so on. So we have to make it efficiently and take profit of the presence of AI to make it more efficiently with the good values.
Yeah, I love that point about being the bridging role. Before I perhaps get Shika and Ioana to answer, we've got a question from Melanie. I'm really keen for us to read this one out. So we've moved forward. Do you feel we should be proactive to encourage more women into EA? And I guess this is partly what this whole event is about, right? Is promoting and showcasing the amazing female talent that's in enterprise architecture. But yeah, who wants to sort of pick up on Melanie's question there?
Sorry, can you repeat the last part?
Yeah.
To promote more women?
So she said, we have moved forward. Do you feel we should be proactive to encourage more women into enterprise architecture?
Of course.
Definitely. I think we all, we are also role models, whether we like it or not. So it's any stage comes with responsibility as well. So I think talking more about our own journeys, encouraging and understanding the concerns of not coming to enterprise architecture, talking more about the different career paths to get into enterprise architecture, I think that's something we should do. And not only us in the panel, but everybody who is listening to this conference. You have an interest, it means you are also a role model for someone else. I think that's the way forward. There is a lot of information on the internet, right, of why women should go into any discipline, probably also including enterprise architecture. But it is only when the stories click with someone else's story, so that makes it powerful. With AI, without AI, we should continue to tell our stories. That's what I think.
Yeah, 100%. Love that. Shika.
Yeah. To add to that, I think that there are I think we, being enterprise architects and being, sometimes we do have that strategic influence over your, the organization decision makers. And I think it is also to, use that strategic influence to understand how you can start defining the career paths within your organization as well as from outside, so that we are starting to bridge the gap, not just externally but from internal perspective as well, is quite a key, I think, in promoting and helping women grow into these roles. What I think is we don't do enough, to be perfectly honest. I think architecture as a stream needs to do more about promoting what are the ways, what are the different career paths that we can have, and what do they actually mean in reality. I think the more we promote, the more we role model ourselves, and the more we use our strategic influences, we can really create a very big impact. So
Yeah.
I go and talk to anybody who I think I can talk to and start talking to them about how we can bridge this gap. But I think we need to do more. We need to do more of it. definitely.
internal pipeline is a really interesting one, isn't it? And I think there is quite a leap of faith I think it takes to sort of jump into architecture, particularly enterprise architecture, because it's quite a big role, right? And it covers a lot. So sort of being bold enough to go, yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to step into that role. And I think, sometimes I would say female colleagues I've worked with need more persuasion and more convincing that yes, they too can take that leap. So it's amazing to see this whole event actually and yourselves kind of promoting your stories, because I don't see it enough, to be honest. I don't see enough encouragement for taking that leap. But Roua, what's your sort of take on encouraging more women into enterprise architecture?
For me, I think we have to open the circle. We invite new voices. We cannot wait for perfect. We just start collaborating from now to build a new vision, to see that women is a part of this environment, of this organization, of this kind of stuff, role, I mean. And enterprise architecture is always, sensitized to the strategy, to the vision, and so on. So reading or seeing the future is a part of the role. So I think include the more we include people, and the more include all genders, different, independently from their differences and so on, the beautiful the future will be, and we'll be able to create a completed image that can include everyone. So with efficient things, of course. So I think we need to talk about more about that. And empathy and inclusion are not only soft skills, they are the foundation of a smart and future-proof architecture for me. So it's more the value and the principle than other thing.
Amazing. And so, dear audience, we still probably have time for one more question. We might be able to squeeze one in. So if you've got another question in you, please do ping that into the chat. But otherwise, I'm going to start to move us towards sort of closing things up. So what's your sort of final reflections, I suppose, and what insight would you like to leave the audience in terms of, this uncertainty, the AI fueled transformation? What's the sort of key thing for them to consider in remaining sort of human focused throughout this sort of journey? Who wants? So I appreciate that's a bit of a big question, but I thought set us a challenging question to finish. Who wants to sort of have a go on that one first?
Should I go? I think if looking back at everything that we discussed, if there is one thing that I want people to reflect on is everything that is happening. There is a certain emotion that you associate with it, and there are certain negative emotions that block you, like fear. So if you are afraid of the future, you may not be at maximum of your intellectual capacity. And to realize that, reflect on it, and to ask yourself what I am afraid of, and what is the most positive scenario that could actually happen to get you in another sort of mindset. I think that we'll have to do more and more often, as the evolution of technology is much faster than what we were used to be until now, and it will just increase. Right? So the uncertainty is increasing, and I think the trick is to stay positive. Yeah.
I love that, and that's almost amplifying what we were saying earlier about being more human, right? It's like, be very aware of your own feelings, be mindful of them, and then think about how you might need to get out your own way to allow things to move forwards. No, that's great.
Yeah.
Shiko, what's your sort of final thoughts?
Yeah, so I think I would agree. I mean, the pace of change has never been this fast before, and yet I believe it will never be this slow again. So we just need to realize that. I think just as we built frameworks around aviation, nuclear energy, internet, when internet came, we were all afraid of internet, but we built frameworks around it. We found a use for it, and then we grew with it. Now we use internet to augment what we need, not to replace us.
Right.
And I think we need to get out of that firefighting. Now is the time to start thinking about demand foresight, understand what are the right use cases for AI, and then leverage the technology, embrace the technology. It is amazing if you use it right, is how I see it. We just need to ensure that we have the right frameworks built to adapt the technology in the right way.
The right guardrails around the excitement. Brilliant. Roua, what's your final thought reflections?
Yeah, you know, when I was preparing the panelists and Oliver, I was thinking about the subject, and I'm telling myself, what are the keywords that we have to keep on mind? And I would finish with some keywords I think will resume everything. I would say empathy, inclusion, communication, ethics, leading in change, and the ability to tell a story.
Fantastic, and that's a great way to end us, and I think we're bang on time, which hopefully Philip will be pleased about. So
Can I
excellent.
just say something before we end? Thank you, Oliver, for hosting us. You've done a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. No, that means a lot. Thank you very much. And Philip, I guess maybe you're going to take over from here. We didn't actually talk about how this would end, so that was a mistake. But yeah, I assume you'll pick things up from here. Thanks, Philip. Oh, you're on mute, I think.
1 second.
Yeah, you're here. Yeah.
Decided to connect to my phone for some reason. Yes, wonderful. Well, thank you all for a really, really inspiring and engaging panel discussion. Great job at moderating, Oliver, and great contributions from Roua, Ioana, and Shika. So a big thank you to you
so much.
for joining. Yes, we will. This has been recorded. We will be editing this. It will be available in the replay zone. We'll also get it up onto our YouTube channel. So we'll be promoting this after the event to spread it far and wide as well. So
fantastic. Well,
thank you all. Great job.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you all. Wonderful. And yeah, my closing remarks will be starting very shortly in the sessions area. So you can leave from here and